let me show you something that I just bought. This right here is a Honda Elite S. Let me tell you a little story about this this moped. So I actually used to have this exact model moped. I had it in black. It was an Elite S, the same exact one, same one through and through. And I bought it at the beginning of finding out my passion for working on things. And I found that I really enjoyed fixing up this old junk and making it drivable again. I gave it jets and rebuilt the carb and all that stuff, and I really liked it, man. And I don't know why I sold it, but it was the biggest regret I ever made because it was the funnest vehicle I ever bought. So I saw the opportunity to buy one, and it was in red, my favorite color. I couldn't resist, and I caved, and I bought it. It is in great shape. My truck wouldn't start yesterday, so I thought no better car to take than the Z. Let's just say I'm super freaking happy, and I can't wait. I'm gonna try and get it started right now. I know I got some other projects to deal with, but I want to see if I can get this started today. That's enough playing around. Let's get back to work on this frame. Right now we're going to bring over the 240SX suspension and cut off the rest of the remaining Tacoma frame so that we can figure out how much material we're going to need. For the frame, we're going to use 3x3 square tube. That's an 1/8 inch thick. I think it'll be plenty strong. That square tube plus a cage should be plenty of strength we need to build a car frame. Now we're going to start cutting all of the angles so that the frame can attach to the subframe. We used the Nissan 240SX frame as reference, so we have the same height and the same width. A bandsaw is used to cut large material straight. Then it's fitted and tacked up. A laser level is used to ensure that the measurements remain the same all the way down the frame. That means the front, the rear, and the middle. Everything looks straight, so we're going to go ahead and weld it up. Now, when you weld down the frame, I'd recommend clamping it up so it doesn't flex. If you're welding it up, I also recommend using a jig table. This table I made myself, so it wasn't exactly the straightest, but if you clamp it down and you check with your laser level, it should come out straight. Okay, real quick. There is both of the finished frame rails. They're all measured up correctly, so here's all of the paperwork with the measurements. You know, it needed to be, 4 1/8 in and what is that, 6 inches tall. So yeah, so now it goes, it goes in 4 1/8 and then it goes up 6 inches. Basically, we're doing the same height as the 240SX in the truck. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna get some square plate right here, and I'm gonna flange with 4 bolts. I'm gonna flange the whole entire front. You'll basically be able to undo a bunch of bolts and take off the whole front end. So it's been at least 3 or 4 hours. This is the reality of building shit. Is you gotta measure and you gotta measure again and you gotta measure 10 different ways. And you gotta pull different ways of measuring out of your ass just to double check, just to triple and quadruple check to make sure that this thing is indeed as straight as you can make it. You're never gonna be as straight as a car manufacturer. Your welds might never even look the prettiest, but if your fucking shit drives straight, that's too much cussing. But if your frame is straight, your car will drive straight and you'll drive good. So that's why measuring is probably the most important and the most annoying and the most time consuming and the most frustrating part about building shit. So what I got here is I've got all sorts of levels and gauges and tape measurers and string, and I've just come up with a bunch of different ways to make sure that this is square with the rest of the frame coming down. And I think I did a pretty good job. And I'm looking at it and it just, it's straighter than the frame that was here before. I'm gonna weld that up, box that up, built that Done, boom, cool, let's move forward. Okay, and I just got the rest of the frame rails all leveled up. I got grade 8 hardware that's gonna be bolting this frame to the rest of the frame. Okay, so just now I have used the chain hoist and I set down the cab because I can't move forward with getting the front suspension mocked up. The next step of this whole thing is gonna be mounting the cab onto the chassis permanently. Now, I came up with a couple ideas for some cab mounts. Like, I was like, oh, this will be cool. You know, it's kind of like the factory one. And then, you know, I realized I don't have a plasma table, so I have to cut that out. I have to bend it, and then I have to make 4 that are all the same. And then something came to me. C-channel. Why don't I just use this big piece of C-channel? It's thick enough, 2 sections of this, and then cut them in half. Boom, I got my cab mounts. I'm gonna go ahead and cut 2 big chunks off this. Went ahead and threw on the fender. Also, let's continue to admire. Oh my God, how good that's gonna look. All right, so I had to throw on both of the fenders because we have to find wheel center. That'll look nice right there, somewhere around there. I mean, it's not rocket science for real, you know, it's just a drift car. So I realized that I have way too much frame right here, and you know, that's just more potential to get it crushed up. So, you know, no thanks to that. So basically, this arm is gonna mount somewhere around here. So I'm like, okay, boom, we're gonna cut that. We're gonna get rid of all of that frame. It's gonna be tubes going forward, and the frame is gonna end right there. So basically, I have to cut those. All we have to do is square up the subframe with the rear subframe. Easy, right? You're not squaring up the subframe to the frame because the frame is just meant to hold the shit. The more important part of this vehicle is gonna be the suspension points. You know, that affects, you know, geometry and stuff like that. So when I say square up the subframe, I don't mean bolt hole. I mean suspension eyelet with suspension eyelet down there. That's a lot easier said than done. I like the sound of it though. You know, it's called, I don't know if any of you believe in manifestation, but that's manifesting if I ever heard it. Just bolt it up and see if it drives straight, right? It has no engine. How is it supposed to drive straight? Engine, computer, exhaust, suspension, steering. What more? Cooling, gas tank, ugh, fuel cell, fuel pump. Forget it. Let's forget this manifesting. Let's be real. This is gonna take a while, but I'm trying to make progress. I'm trying to make progress quick. So let's get measuring. So I just did a zip tie with a washer. The other end of the zip tie loops through the little hole that tape measures have. Basically just been measuring from that suspension point, and matching it all the way up with the Nissan 350Z. I went with that suspension point because it was a straight shot, and side to side I get 105.5, and then diagonal I get 107.5. So now I went ahead and put an X and then took my punch and ran a punch right on the center hole. Here's what I mean when I say jig. So this jig bolts up to those same white bars in the 240SX, and thanks to Jinjun, whatever, on YouTube, he showed me an easy way to make a jig for the 240SX. That's it, now it's time to build. I'm fucking sick of all this planning. I want to start tube bending. That's basically all we're gonna do for the drift truck for now. The boring part is done, the frame and all the measuring. So all that's left right now is to build. Now, yes, there is some measuring with building, but you know, it has a better outcome than just your car driving straight. It looks cool. So anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching, and tune in for part 2 when we start building this thing. Catch you next time.